Social media has played a very big role, and because social media is all about micro-targeting and micro-marketing, which is what home chefs are all about. But sometimes home chefs tend to feel a bit intimidated by social media. They say that, okay, I'm just doing Facebook by myself, but I'm not really a marketer or anything like that. So for that, we've got Gauri. So Gauri Devidayal, who started off with the table. Then she has this amazing phenomenon, the Max Street Kitchen, which is a cooking theater. There's got Max Street Cafe and also a bakery. And her restaurant has been in the top 5, top 10 list in every awards, and sometimes the top as well. Of course, the food has spoken a lot, word of mouth. She's used social media very effectively, and she's also seen the work of home chefs, and she probably has some points of view on what works or what doesn't. So for the next 20 minutes, it's all yours.
If I may quickly welcome Gauri. Thank you for being here. It's a privilege to have you.
Let me start with a full disclosure. I'm not a chef. I'm not any kind of chef. I'm not a restaurant chef. I'm not a home chef. But I do have a bunch of restaurants, as Kalyan mentioned. And over the years, the last 12 years to be specific, we've launched 7 different brands. And if I include my own in that, that's 8 brands. So while I'm no expert on social media, I'm going to try and share some of my experience and learnings with you, and just talk about what's worked for us. So let's start. I'm gonna kind of split this into 5 points. The first one is who, right? Who are you? I think it's really important to decide your focus. Ask yourself, are you a recipe developer or are you a home chef? If it's the former, and there's absolutely no problem with that, you need to have a very different approach to your social media, because that is essentially your business. You are on social media, that's where you're trying to get the traction, and that's pretty much the whole and soul of what you do. But if you're a home chef, your business primarily comes from cooking and selling what you've cooked, right? So it's a very different mindset, and you need to keep that in mind before you start launching into your social media. And I'm going to give you 2 examples. There's so many out there, but an example of a recipe developer is someone called Shana Levy, and she focuses on paleo recipes, right? It's a certain kind of dietary requirement. And on the other hand, and for those of you who were here last year, you would have come across her at UpperCrust. Chef Marina, who's better known as that Thalassery girl on Instagram, she's a home chef, right? So she does delivery, she does catering, she does pop-ups. So there's a big difference in the approach between the two. But today we're going to focus obviously on the home chef. So the second point is, when should you start, right? The answer is now. And don't worry about how many followers you have or how many likes you're getting or how many followers you want to have by the end of the month or the end of the year. Just get started. That is the most important thing. The other thing I want to say is that you don't have to invest tons of money in fancy equipment or hire a videographer. This is, again, coming back to the difference between a home chef and, say, a recipe developer, where their entire business is on Instagram. They probably do have to invest a little bit more on the quality of the content. But when you're a home chef, just get started with your own phone, right? Ask someone to help you with taking the content, whether it's photographs, videos. And just to give you an example, we're a 12-year-old brand. We're in the fine dining space as well as delivery businesses. We invested in an in-house videographer only earlier this year. Until now, we were generating content ourselves. Yes, we did hire freelance professionals when required, but to a large extent, we were doing this in-house using our own equipment. How should you go about it, right? So now you've decided that you're a home chef, you've decided that you're going to start today. So now what, right? How should you go about it? How should you even think about approaching Instagram? I'm going to use one word here, which is what you should always keep in mind, which is community. Okay? What you're actually working towards on Instagram is building a community, right? Instead of going after thousands of likes, build loyalty. And how do you do that? You increase engagement. How is that going to actually happen? How are you going to go about building that loyalty? You're going to be empathetic and you're going to be authentic. Okay? These are two words that everyone has to remember. What does it mean to be empathetic? Right? You're a home chef, you're cooking away. What does it mean to be empathetic? It means putting yourself in the shoes of someone who's following you. What do they want to know more about? Engage with them, respond to their comments, answer their questions. Don't blank people on Instagram DM, right? Of course, unless they just say hi, in which case, yeah, you can probably ignore that. But the point is that when you engage with the people who are making an effort to follow you, to comment on your posts, respond. Today, people want the unfiltered version of how you got where you are, the challenges you face, and of course, how you do what you do. What makes you imperfect is also what makes you real and relatable. So just remember that when you're using Instagram, that no one wants to see perfection all the time. They can't relate to that. And if doing trending reels isn't your thing, it's totally fine. Don't be pressured to do what your competition's doing. Stay true to yourself. So, like I said, while I'm not a home chef, I'm going to share an example of my personal handle, which is Gauri Devidayal. I once shared a screenshot of a customer complaint that we got, but it wasn't about like beating myself up. It was about sharing what we did in response to that complaint. There was something that someone could take away from what I was posting. Another time, I talked about what I think didn't work when one of our restaurants had to be closed down. The point is that I'm a human being, and so is everyone who's following me, for the most part. And they just want to know that I am real and that what they're seeing on Instagram is the real me. When it comes to our brands, we talk about things like the individual team members, right? These are people that when you come into a restaurant and you see them, you recognize them. Wouldn't you like to know a little bit more about them and connect with them? We share the behind the scenes of our restaurant. We actually go into our kitchens. We show what our chefs are doing. If we claim that our pastas are made in-house, we actually show that happening. Don't say you're doing something and then not be able to actually verify that. It really helps, all of this really helps to building trust. And that's the one thing that goes back to that idea of building a community, is that it's all people who trust the kind of content that you're putting out there. Whatever you do, do not put money into buying followers and likes. I can't stress this enough, and I'm not an expert again on Instagram, and I don't know all the impact it has, but all I do know is that it is the worst thing, and your followers are smarter than that, and they can see right through it. So going back to that point about trust, you're going to lose it overnight if you end up buying followers and likes. The fourth point is what, right? What can you post? As much as people might want to see pretty pictures of your food, of you, let's face it, we're all faced with so much content in our face every single day, right? Like there's content everywhere. So everyone's hungry for knowledge. If they're giving you that 2 minutes or 5 minutes of their time in a day, make it count, right? People want something out of what they're getting. Yes, we do mindlessly scroll through, but when do we stop? When do we stop and read something? It's when there's something more to it, right? There's more than just a pretty picture. And finally, the why. Okay, and this to me is the most important thing. Of course, social media, like I said, is the face of your brand. before someone even interacts with you, before they've even had your food, right? But remember, don't overthink it. Don't worry about how many likes you're getting, how many views your reel is getting, how many shares your posts are getting. Have fun with it. This is so important, and I can't stress this enough. There are millions of accounts out there, and you have no idea why someone might be following you and what they're getting out of it. So stop trying to second guess that and just have fun with your Instagram. Don't forget, you're a chef, you're not an influencer. Don't let your life revolve around social media. I'm going to add one final thing, and this is my biggest learning as a restaurateur, which I'd like to share with chefs out there. No matter how good your Instagram might be, your social media game might be, nothing in the world will make up for mediocre food, right? So as a chef, focus on getting your product right. That is the most important thing, because no social media will ever match up to the word of mouth endorsement that you'll get.
Okay, any questions? Anyone?
You said you should not be, going behind after things like buying followers or likes or engagement. But what you should do as a small brand, like you just started with it, but you want to cover it, quite a lot. That's how your eagerness be. So how you start?
The table's 12 years
12
old,
years old.
and for the first 3 years, we were not on Instagram, right? Well, I don't think Instagram
No,
existed,
Instagram
or it
wasn't
may have
that big.
existed and I was clueless. But we were not on Instagram. So, I do genuinely believe, like, we all start from zero. And,
Me, for whatever's there, it's been 15 years.
Yeah.
In different formats or whatever. So it takes time. So even as a small business, you should not get that impatient. I mean, you're the business
I
person.
think that's
yeah.
the point, right? And like I mentioned, we've got 5 or 6 different brands and handles on Instagram, and they're all at different places. They've all taken a different amount of time to get where they are. And there are probably a lot of other restaurants who have way more followers than us.
And the audiences might be different from Max Street Cafe
Well,
versus
exactly,
the
right?
table.
So I think the really important thing is to start, and the second important thing is to be consistent, right? And you will see it. I mean, that's how everyone has done it. So I think have a little faith in yourself, have fun with it, try different things out, and just start putting things out there.
And you'd probably have a point of view on like what is the scale you're looking at, because say as table you're looking at a certain audience, for Max Street a certain audience. If you're a home chef, then it's very micro targeting, right? Like maybe one city, within that a particular range or a particular community. So do you need 10,000 followers, or do you need a certain number of engaged followers?
I'm the wrong person to ask. So
your personal feel about
what
it.
I would actually say is that as a home chef, you actually have an advantage over a restaurant if you think about it, because you can actually move to different cities and very easily do your food in different places and build your following in different cities. I, as a restaurant, am very much stuck in Colaba, right there.
Colaba
You want to eat
cartel.
the food, please come and have it. So, I, in fact, as a restaurateur, I'm limiting, of course, we do have followers in other countries, etc., who are just, who may be in the industry and curious to see what we're doing and, enjoy our feed, etc. But the large proportion are restricted to the city and people who, actually can visit the restaurant, right? So when it comes to home chefs, you have an advantage, so take full advantage of that and, go out there and put your food out there wherever you can. Again, put your food out there, not your social media.
Thank you so much. And the last bit, that's what really home chefs are about. So you got the medals and the gifts right in
Yes.
the beginning. So thank you so much.